Tabang was an interesting character.
Yes.
Every time I speak to you, I don't end up conversations, if it's like conversations like these, without touching on that character.
Yes.
Tabang is in Yizo 3.
Yes.
Before we get into that, because you were not part of Yizo 1 and Yizo 2.
I was in Cape Town, yeah.
Yes. So now Yizo 3 is a word that it's coming up, and everybody is in love with one, you know. What is the pressure of coming into a project like that? What is the thought process? How are you feeling?
So I get a call from my agent, Moonyeenn. She says, Angus wants to see you. And then we meet at Angus at Premi in Rosebank. There was a Premi in Rosebank. I don't know if it's still there. But we meet at Premi, and then he tells me, you aware of that? I say, yeah, I know Yizo. He's like, okay, there's this character we want to do, and we think you'd be great. And he referenced me a Japanese movie about a well-known actor who played a gay role. And then he said, but the character is gay, and are you good with that? And I say, what, you know, I liked the idea of him being bi, because I thought that would be the conflict of what you know. But he's like, no, and then I was like, okay, cool, fine. And then I told people closest, then we had to, after I agreed, then the audition process happened. And so one thing I never do, even with meeting people, I like to meet the person, not the idea of the person. So even with projects, I don't. So the A-lister person I've worked with, I most admire, Jodie Foster in Money Monster. Meeting her was as close as to being starstruck maybe I could be, because I grew up, you know. I remember her first movie I saw of her, The Accused.
Yeah.
I never forget that experience watching that in film. But the point I was trying to make is that, for me it was a project. I understood that Yizo was a big project.
Yes.
And that I would have to really do my best at bringing my game to the standard of the game, you know.
For Angus to have called you, where would he have seen you before that?
I don't know. Maybe Moonyeenn talked to me about him. I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know. I didn't ask.
And how did you get Moonyeenn? Because we know that she's like the agent of all agents. So how did that relationship come about?
So when there was a Pierre van Blitzen was the head of PACT, Performing Arts Council of the Transvaal, and it was based at the State Theatre at the time, and he was artistic director. And at my finals at UCT, we performed, and then, you know, people invite people.
Yes.
And he saw my work there. And he wrote me a letter and said, out of the 89 he's seen throughout of the country, I was the top performer. And he told Moonyeenn. Moonyeenn flew to Cape Town, and we met at the Baxter. And she said, Pierre said this. And I respect Pierre's judgment. And I did a sample of one of the work that I did. And then I remember another guy walked by, and, you know, he had also seen my work, and he was like, wow. And so that's how we got together with Moonyeenn. And in that conversation, she was like, I'm going to help you with a lasting career.
Yeah.
I don't do stardom, but I do actors' careers. And I said, that fits exactly with me. And that's how.
That's been the journey.
That's been the journey.
How has the passing then impacted your career? Well, not your career, but you as a person. And because you working for so long with an agent, you end up having a real relationship, you know?
Yeah.
So how has that impacted you?
It's been, I understand life and death, you know, so I'm able to accept when death comes.
Yeah.
I'm not sentimental about it, but I have good memories, and I have good experiences with her, and those remain with me. And I'm still with the agency. Her daughter has taken it over. And relations are good there.
Okay.
So, but I appreciate her, and so that will never leave.
You find goodbye is easy?
Hey?
You find goodbye is easy in general?
Yes.
Yes. That's interesting.
Because, I grew up traveling a lot.
Yeah.
So meeting new people and saying goodbye became a thing. And I'm also on a journey of learning to understand that nothing's permanent. And when you understand that, then you learn to love each experience to the full. And once you've invested 100% in something, it's fine once it goes.
I'm still battling with the goodbyes. Even when we are part of a theater production, I get attached to the process and the work, and the final day comes, final call, curtain call, we take our bow. It's always a grieving process. I grieve that moment. I grieve that process. I grieve when I'm on set for too long. If it's a one-day call, it's different. But if it's a piece where I get to know people, we get to talk, even though we're going to get to talk beyond the space, I've always had a situation where I have to understand the depth of each moment. You know? It's an interesting thing for me to hear from you, that it is what it is, and you just let it be, because that's beautiful to have, you know? Anyway, back to Thabang. You get this role, you get into Yizo. I realized from the longest of time, a lot of people speak about Yizo 3 not being the greatest Yizo, you know? But recently, having watched all of them, I realized the reason why it was not the greatest in most people's eyes is because it was the intellectual Yizo. The first two catered to what we knew, the hood, the violence. It was a culture of gangsterism. We knew that very well. That is still prevalent in Yizo 3, but they introduced conversations of HIV and AIDS. They introduced the conversations of the students going to university. There's a discourse, there's an intellectual conversation. And your character is one of the most intellectual characters there, because he brings something that in the black family has existed, but we pretended it's not. It's not present. So how did you feel playing that character during that time? Because gays, relationships, that community, it was not something that was out there in the black community. It was there, but no one wanted to. It was a disease that people didn't speak about. And you play this character, Thabang. Were there ever moments of judging that character in terms of also from the world, now seeing your relationship with Tiza in the piece? How did the people in your life react to this?
So, so I went to a boys' school.
Okay.
In high school. So in that setting, there are people with femininity, and there are guys who prey on that, and there are guys who naturally say, I'm gay. And so you pick that up, you know, you realize those dynamics. And even then you go to drama school, and those dynamics are there. And I remember this, and he was like, he used to wear red in a time like late 80s, like red, and he used to perm his hair, you know, and he used to have affairs at the barracks, at the military barracks. So the soldiers, he was one of their guys, like their partners. So you see these people, and hey, they're people, and some of them you know, some of them you don't know, you know. And so by the time I'm now getting the part, that's not an issue for me. And then I need to tell the people who are close to me, and everybody who's close to me is more or less open-minded. But now it's about how the audience is going to react to that. That was the interesting thing. Because once it hit the air, and sometimes you walk in a certain situation, and people just they want to start something with you, but then you realize, I always realized what it was, and don't engage on that, because he wants you to give him airtime.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to give you airtime if you're coming at me with negativity. I remember the one time where it was really dangerous. It was like at Newville. It was evening, and then these 4 guys, they recognized me, and then they come, and I was just like, I just kept quiet, and then it diffused the situation. The one wanted to start something to see what would happen, and it was just nothing. Yeah, you just learn to. So that's the thing. But the thing about it was never stressed. The intellectual side of it I enjoyed as well, because that meant it fit me in the sense that I had a wider view of the world. I understood the politics. I understood university attendance. I understood the debates going on. So that part was easy, and also mixing the languages. You throw in Suzulu, throw in Suzulu.
Yes, that was interesting.
So that you're there, but you're not there. So people identify, but they don't, and that's part of it. And my thing was not to play camp.
Yes.
Just to make it straight, so that you're always wrestling with, do I like him or I don't? You're always wrestling with that thing, and people wrestle with that even if it's not a sexuality thing, but you're always wrestling with identity.
I wanted to get deeper into that, because when you make the choice of how you play him, it could have been easy. Like today, I always say to people that it's always easier to play the opposite. If you say, I need to play a woman, I can shave and play a woman, because of it's so far away. But when you are playing a character like that, and you choose not to play the far opposite of you, you make him so human and so relatable that it's so close but yet far. Then that's where we see the actor, because now we're like, okay, you're playing with the gray areas, you're showing us not the black and white, because you like, then it's like night and day, but you are like, no, we can go to early evenings, let's watch sunset, let's watch sunrise, let's play in the middle there. Some people don't know when you're saying you chose not to play in camp because of that's more feminine, that's more wild, that's more somizi. That's what you will see in today in many of the stories. And that's why when I was watching Yizo 3, when it first came up on Netflix now, I was interested in that the character is so far ahead that makes today's characters we see so far back, because that could have been easily what you would have done, the obvious choices. As an actor approaching a character, maybe let's look at that character for example. What are the fundamentals of building this character to the world? Because when you read it, the conversation is he's gonna be a gay character, but what gay then comes, what version of homosexuality or whatever is decided by you. The character is going to be an abusive father. What version of an abusive father comes from you? Tabang, building Tabang, what would be the fundamentals?
So a lecturer of mine, James Blankenberg, he was gay. And he never taught me, he was an Afrikaans tutor. But I only found out he was gay on my last year. And I was like, what? Because in my mind, if somebody's gay, there's a certain type of behavior. And the ones that I mentioned earlier is that, bright, out there, feminine, and that's the idea. And then, so he was my first, okay. And then I began to see that, okay, there's it's like if, And then I don't want to make a spectacle out of it, and I wanted you to engage on different issues. Also, his arc is that people found out much later.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
So if you can't give it away. So because it's in the story, you have to see, oh, it's a reveal. So you throw in pointers so that when you get the reveal, you say, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily see it coming unless, I mean, somebody, I remember when they watched it in episode 3, they said, that character is gay. And then you just leave it.
Yeah.
But that's what you want. There's some level of audience who catch it, and then there's some who won't see it.
Yeah.
So you have to give that. So that the arc of the thing shows it. But how I approach, especially screen characters, because it's such an intimate thing, the camera can really get close to you. Is that if you're lying, the camera can pick it up. So then it becomes an effort, and the camera picks up that effort. But if you say, "What if I was this?" So if I'm a murderer, what if Makhaola was a murderer? So I have to bring that to me, so that I can find the right anchor on the truth of it, and then color it with what the script requires me to color it with. But the essence of it is, what if I was?
So you work from the inside out.
Yeah, what if I was this?
Yeah.
But then he's not me, because then you adding. But that core, so you understand that if I was this, I would be this because this, So that's how I always put myself in the center of it, and then add the what the script gives you.
So